So Rand Water says it's battling to maintain supply to certain parts of Johannesburg amid power cuts. According to the utility, full recovery will depend on less frequent blackouts. Now, in a recent opinion piece, Professor Anja du Plessis, who's a research specialist in water resource management at Unisa, has detailed the dire impact of load shedding on water supply. She joins us this morning to unpack the story further. Prof, it's great to have you with us on the program. Thanks for joining us. And I wonder whether, perhaps now we make this connection between load shedding and water, but previously I don't think we understood, those of us who are not experts in the field, just how important reliable energy is on water as a resource.
Unfortunately, yes, energy and water has always been intertwined. It's the same with electricity and water and food. That's also intertwined. What we are currently seeing is basically the collapse of infrastructure. I know that Joburg Water and Rand Water is asking consumers to use less. It's the same as Eskom asking people to use less electricity. If we don't have water to use, how can we use less? So we unfortunately are seeing the collapse of dilapidated infrastructure. It's actually happening much faster now because of the major stress that blackouts and load shedding is placing on these infrastructure systems.
So we know the stress that just as households that these blackouts put on our appliances, for example, our fridges, our washing machines, our TVs. That obviously takes place at a much larger scale on our water infrastructure.
Exactly that. So at this point in time, what we're seeing is that the water systems aren't recovering. Joburg Water did send out a statement last night to say that most of the reservoirs in Johannesburg is either critically low and some are empty. They are now isolating some reservoirs, but it is going to take a while for these reservoirs to reach a suitable capacity. They're aiming for 30 or 50% of the reservoirs to fill up. However, once again, we're still sitting with a major non-revenue water issue within the city and right across South Africa, whereby we are losing more than 40% of water before it even reaches the consumer. There are major bursting pipes, leakages all over the city that needed to be fixed. We sat with the same situation last year, September, October, where I also wrote an article to say that we need urgent action at this point in time to try and address this problem. I know Rand Water then invested in some generators. However, some of their plants are so big that you can't really sustainably put in a generator and hope that it's going to run for 3 to 4 hours, especially when you have an escalated or extended prolonged outage, which is going to have significant effects down the line. So at this point in time, we're seeing a snowball effect.
We're in deep trouble here, aren't we? Because what Johannesburg Water is saying is we need less frequent power cuts for the system to be able to recover. So far for 2023, we've had load shedding every single day, and it doesn't look like it's going to be improving.
Exactly, and it's escalating. Yesterday we were at stage 5 and 6. So that even places more pressure on the system, and it will take longer for the system now to recover as well. My view on this has always been that firstly, we asked that hospitals be exonerated from load shedding. They were said that, no, we unfortunately can't do that. They also asked that some of the water systems, such as the reservoirs and the water towers, that they aren't load shedded. I think at this point in time, we can't say that that can't be done. There has to be some kind of strategy put in place by the municipality, either by Joburg Water, in partnership with Eskom, to say that we are sitting with a major issue where numerous parts of Joburg has basically reached day zero, with more than people like sitting without water for 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned Shoshongube as well, which is like 4 weeks without water. There's so many small towns across the country which has been sitting with these problems for much longer than Joburg has. However, the impacts within Joburg is escalating because we're now sitting with an issue of dilapidated infrastructure that hasn't been maintained for more than 2 decades. And now with the added pressure of load shedding, these things are collapsing at a rapid rate. So the municipality and Eskom need to be sitting together and try to work out a strategy to say that what can we do to assist the water system to recover. Because for us now to be at stage 5 until Sunday, I think, is going to cause the water system either not to recover or to recover very, very slowly.
Yeah, I mean, if we can exempt government compounds from load shedding, surely we can exempt hospitals and water infrastructure from load shedding as well. Prof,
Exactly.
talk us through, the impact, and we're seeing it already at hospitals, patients having to queue outside for clean water, mothers who have just given birth, their partners having to run outside to get the water from the tanker that's outside. In terms of the health implications, let's focus on the issue of hospitals for just a moment. What are the implications there?
Well, for hospitals, it's got major implications. I mean, you're sitting with a ticking time bomb at the end of the day, whereby, it is affecting people's health. The other thing that we also need to remember is that load shedding or consistent blackouts also affects our water treatment plants, which are already, most of them, not compliant. They are struggling. They haven't been maintained. So, for example, in Durban, as well as in the city of Cape Town, but then also other small towns and in Joburg as well, whereby we are sitting with sewage spills. So at the end of the day, if this is going to carry on and no proper intervention is put in place, we're basically going to sit with a human rights crisis like we did with the Vaal River, which is still ongoing in terms of sewage pollution. We as a South African citizen, according to the Constitution, Section 24 says that you have the right to a clean environment, and you also have the right to clean water, which at this point in time in certain towns as well as cities, is not the case. So we are going to sit with human rights issues very soon if this isn't addressed properly.
So Prof, we've been talking about this link between water and energy. It's all around our water reticulation system, right? Every stage of water, from getting water to the source, from sewage treatment plants, every stage that leads us up to getting water to the consumer requires electricity. So if the system isn't given a chance to recover, what happens to the infrastructure?
Well, at this point in time, the pipes are dry. I have seen on the Joburg water site that some people are posting images of what their water is looking like once it is returning. It's very low flow. Some person did submit a photograph of water being blue. It looks like blue Powerade, which is quite concerning, but that can be attributed to copper corrosion, and obviously that usually happens when pipes are dry, whereby the sediment and stuff settles within the pipe. So there you also have a possible water quality issue, which Joburg Water has to monitor as well. But as you said, the whole water reticulation system is based on energy. We need to pump the water from the water source. The water then from the water source needs to go for treatment. The water treatment plant needs electricity to actually function and ensure that we are receiving clean drinking water according to the South African water guidelines. Then it has to go to the storage, to the water tanks, as well as your water towers and reservoirs. And then at the end of the day, distribution towards the consumer, which all is depending on electricity.
The city of Johannesburg says it's looking at leasing mobile generators for those times when we have power outages for prolonged periods. Is that a viable solution, in your opinion?
Look, that might be a very short-term solution. I don't know what size of generators they're looking at.
Or how much it might cost.
However, the water reticulation system is widespread. It's a complex system. So I don't think it's going to be a long-term solution. It's not cost-effective, especially with the fuel prices going up all of the time. That is basically just putting a plaster on a festering wound at this point in time. So my recommendation would be that we rather invest in the infrastructure, maintain it, but then also in collaboration with municipality as well as Eskom, say that we need assistance in terms of excluding these areas of load shedding.
Yeah, in some instances though, Prof, the horse has already bolted, right?
Exactly.
This is work that should have been done a very long time ago.
Exactly, and this is what we're sitting with now, whereby it's more than 20, it's almost 30 years of non-maintenance of water infrastructure, where things have just left to be no service delivery as well, so we have that issue as well. And it's all compounding into, it's actually a disaster at this point in time in Joburg. If people are sitting without water for more than 3 to 4 days, some people for a week, it's not acceptable. And instead of focusing on, like the mayor said in his first interview, on potholes, I think we should rather focus on the people of Johannesburg and try to assist them with getting water out of their taps.
Yeah, let's hope he's listening. Professor Anja du Plessis, let me thank you for your time this morning. Such an important discussion. If you thought the energy crisis was bad, now we face a water crisis as well if we don't do what needs to be done to try and mitigate this disaster. She's an associate professor and a research specialist in water resource management at the University of South Africa.